Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Buckets. Apologies for the lack of videos recently, but we are right back in the driver's seat. And the first thing that I wanted to react to was DeAndre Ayton being bought out by the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, when the Drew Holiday trade went down, my initial reaction was, wow, you're really going to pay like $90 million a year for DeAndre Ayton, Drew Holiday, and Jeremy Grant. That certainly seems questionable. Well, they decided that they were not going to do that. Not only were they just not interested in keeping DeAndre Ayton around, they didn't even think that they would be able to find a trade for him at the salary amount that he is at. So I wanted to talk about DeAndre, both just how his career's gone, where it can go going forward, and what teams should be, will be interested in him. So, first of all, I was extremely high on DeAndre Ayton when he was a draft pick. I'm also not somebody who is good at evaluating draft talent. If you want proof of that, go look at the other things that I had to say about the 2018 NBA draft. Namely, that Luka Doncic nor Trae Young would be good players, let alone as good as they have become. Ever since then, I don't really touch draft stuff, but it makes complete sense that people looked at DeAndre Ayton and thought that he was going to be a perennial all-star level guy, because when you look at his combination of touch and skill, as well as how much physical prowess and physical dominance he clearly was capable of displaying, especially at the collegiate level, the defensive upside that he had as well, like, there's just a million reasons to think that that guy coming out of college was going to be an amazing, amazing player. He got comparisons to David Robinson, but honestly, I think that would just be purely a matter of aesthetics. They're like, oh, wow, this dude who's really, really jacked reminds me a lot of the other center who was really, 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 really jacked. Not quite that simple. DeAndre has always had the issue of he looks like, or at least it seems like, he would be able to be more physically assertive than he actually is. Like, the touch shot stuff that he displayed early into his career, like hook shots, floaters, even a little bit of a mid-range game, all that stuff was cool, but it shouldn't have been foundational to his success. It shouldn't have been, or rather, I guess it shouldn't have been the primary element of his offensive game that he leaned so heavily into, and that ended up being exactly the case. You would wish that he would lower a shoulder. You would wish that he would back down a defender, especially a smaller defender, be willing to throw elbows, willing to embrace contact. A very strong indicator of his lack of physical prowess is his free throw attempts for his career. This year, he averaged 14.4 points per game on, 56.5% shooting. That's good. However, he shot 1.5 free throw attempts per game. His career high in free throw attempts per game is 3, and that's when he averaged 18 with Phoenix in his final year there, 2 years after the championship run. I actually averaged 8.2 in his second year. God damn, DeAndre, where did it all go wrong? Truly, just the inability to get to the line was indicative of his unwillingness to be really physical in the paint. I'm going to go over to his shooting chart real quick as well. 0 to 3 feet. 38.5% of his field goal attempts come from 0 to 3 feet, meaning that he is taking more shots than not outside of the paint for his career. These are all career percentages. He's taking 10% of his shots from long mid-range, 20% of his shots from 10 to 16 feet, and 29% of his shots from floater range. So he, in terms of his scoring inside the arc, he is overwhelmingly, basically 40% of his shots are not right at the basket, and 40% of his shots, more or less, are right at the basket. So he's also got that math does not really check out in my mind, but also it does. Wait, no, it's never mind. 60. Yeah, 60% of his shots, 60% of his 2-pointers are floater range or mid-range shots, and that's just something that he's also not particularly great at. He's good enough at them, otherwise he would not, manage to maintain the scoring volume he does while not going inside as much, while not getting to the free throw line as much, and of course, while not being a three-point shooter. But he's a career 42% on long twos, 46% on 10 to 16 feet, and 53% in floater range. All of those are a little bit above league average, but that does not mean that you're like, oh, great, let's get DeAndre Ayton this mid-post opportunity so he can shoot a fadeaway or like a deep hook shot. The shot quality is fine, but it's not great. And you would rather him lean on this thing that should be great. He's a career 76.5% finisher from 0 to 3 feet, which is pretty damn good. He shot over 80% at the rim twice. And of course, he also had the playoff run in 2021 where he was awesome the whole way through. 78% at the rim, 54% from floater range, 61% on 10 to 16 foot jumpers. That's fantastic. And his shots at the rim, guess what? 55% of his field goal attempts on that playoff run when he was awesome were right at the basket. He just has refused to be the type of player that he would be most optimal as. And he can still put up stats that are pretty good. He can still score the ball at a decent rate. But this is a guy that should be a 20-plus point per game scorer. All these floater range shots, all these mid-range shots, they should be supplementary to the primary element of his game, which is just being a bulldozer going to the rim, just dominating on the offensive glass. He's also a pretty damn good offensive rebounder, averages 3 of them per game for his career. Like this, the pieces for him to be a great player are so clearly there, but it's a matter of mentality, and that's something that is really difficult for people to come to terms with, where you see somebody who has this body type that is just built to be super physical, and then they aren't. I don't know. Part of me thinks it's a little unfair, but the other part of me fully understands it. The other part of me absolutely lives in similar levels of frustration, so I understand where it's coming from. Now, where he is right now at the age of 26, going to be 27 next year, it's not like it's impossible for him to return to this earlier version of himself that was just a great do-it-all center, someone who finishes at the rim really well, somebody who rebounds really well, and somebody who doesn't try to do too much, doesn't try to do stuff that is like not necessarily outside of his comfort zone, but not the most ideal way of running offense. Most of the stuff that DeAndre Ayton does on offense, he's not bad at it, but it's not the most ideal way to run your offense. So it's hard to imagine a world where he crosses this hypothetical 20 point per game threshold. So really, at this point, the best thing he could do for his career is just be a great finisher, a good defender, and a good rebounder, and making not an insane amount of money. Yeah, he was due to make $35 million next year. If that guy goes back down to making like 10-ish a year, he becomes a really, really good bargain center. But at this price range, with Portland having so much money all of a sudden on their cap sheet going forward, getting out of this money was the right call, even if, I don't know, it's maybe a little short-sighted to waive him and extend or stretch that contract because he was going to expire after this year. But I don't know. I get it. Also, Portland, they just drafted a center in the middle of the first round. And they also have Donovan Clingan, who has his issues with like stamina and his ability to play real starting center minutes. However, he is a great rebounder and a great rim protector. Averaged 1.6 blocks and 7.9 rebounds, 3.2 of them being offensive rebounds in just 19.8 minutes per game as a rookie last year. So he's basically averaging the same amount of offensive rebounds as DeAndre Ayton, playing 10 less minutes per game, and then also averaging half a block more per game. I'm actually curious now to see if we just compare their per 36 numbers. Donovan Clingan, 3 blocks per game per 36. 5.9 offensive rebounds per 36, where DeAndre Ayton averages 3.9 offensive rebounds and just 1.2 blocks. So yeah, I'm not shocked by this. As for some other NBA teams that should be interested, There's a lot of weird stuff going on with the Lakers right now because I think LeBron's about to take his player option, but there was like definitely some concern about that. And I also saw a report that apparently the Lakers are preparing to lose Dorian Finney-Smith to the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets having a hell of an offseason if that does happen. They're already having a hell of an offseason. But just to quickly go over some teams that also could potentially have interest, the Lakers are the obvious one. I think the Denver Nuggets could really use a great backup center. Maybe he would rather go somewhere where he can get a little bit more opportunity than that. Golden State Warriors could probably use a center who's a little bit more mobile, a little bit more capable on the offensive end than Kevon Looney. They've obviously wanted to go to the Draymond Green at the 5 stuff, but if you want to get a more traditional center who can slot in as a starter if necessary, comfortably more so than Looney, then I think the Warriors make sense. The Mavericks do not. They just signed some bigs. Maybe. No, the Rockets, they're pretty good at the center position. I don't think they would want it. Don't think the Grizzlies make sense. There's actually shockingly few teams that I'm like, oh yeah, you guys should go and get DeAndre Ayton. You know who no, that still doesn't make sense though. Because I was gonna say the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat are great at developing. Maybe they could be the team that turns his career around, but they have Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware, so it's like not really a lot of center opportunity there. I wouldn't want to interrupt Ware's development for the sake of getting Ayton opportunity. The Charlotte Hornets, maybe. The Hornets have been making some good moves, and they could use a center. They just got rid of Mark Williams, so maybe the Hornets. God, pretty brutal pickings here. Maybe the Chicago Bulls? What are the people saying? I already said the Lakers. And it seems like the Lakers are not going to have a ton of flexibility, so I think the Lakers actually make the most sense for DeAndre Ayton, weirdly enough, but God. Man, really looking at it, there's actually very few prospects available for him. There are only a couple of teams that do not feel good enough about their backup center, and there's even fewer teams that are like, oh man, we could really use a 5. So I just think to the Lakers, that makes the most sense. I think he's just gonna go to the Lakers because especially when he's not making crazy money, you feel way better about DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton making $10 million is great. DeAndre making 35, holy shit, what a disaster that is. So yeah, this will probably be better for the way he gets talked about around the rest of the league. But I watched a Funky Diabetics video just summarizing a couple of moves that had gone down, and he was like, the way that Lakers were with D'Angelo Russell, they're going to have just like the center version of that with DeAndre Ayton. I think that's 100% true because he has that same level of, he'll give you a game where you're like, God damn, this guy can be an all-star. And then another game where you're like, I don't even want this guy to touch the floor in the playoffs. That's probably exactly what will happen. So we shall see. But yeah, more videos coming. Thank you for watching. Shout out to Rudy for editing this one, and goodbye.